What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Investing Bros live show. And we've got a lot to talk about today because this weekend, Bitcoin did pump. In fact, today, making it all the way over $64,000 per coin. But at the moment, the price is falling. But despite all of that, we have amazing news coming from BlackRock about just how fast Bitcoin is growing, and its adoption rate is historical numbers. It is something that makes every single bull just super happy on this fine Monday. We're going to talk about all of that and a whole lot more, so do not go anywhere. Smash the like button, watch the video to the end, hit subscribe, but first, we got to roll the intro.
Tim, how we doing?
T-Shroom. How are you doing today, my friend?
Oh, better than I deserve.
Very good. I am very tired. I just pulled back into the house about an hour or so ago. Spent the weekend down in North Florida, cleaning up after the storm. I was at my in-laws' house. They own some acreage out in Greenville, Florida, town of about 600 people as a whole.
But metropolis.
Yeah, spent pretty much all of Saturday, most of Sunday. We were doing a lot of cleanup work there. Came back, left early this morning, and man, I am beat. But I'll tell you this, without fail, T-Shroom, I don't know why. It seems like every time I leave town, Bitcoin goes on a little bit of a spree. That's good news because guess what? I leave town again Thursday, heading out to California for my trip that was canceled here a couple of weeks ago. So even if Bitcoin sustains a pullback for the next couple of days, don't worry, guys. I'm leaving town again very soon. Bitcoin will rally once again. Yeah, I mean, it's actually the timing of this is just perfect. I think that Bitcoin literally peaked as I was driving home this morning, and it knew I was heading back home, and that's why the cool off is coming from. What do you think, T-Shroom?
I think that it's a little fugazi, but
It's
sometimes it's there's correlation, right? Sometimes you can trade on it even, so it's kind of crazy.
Listen, coincidences are coincidences until you see it happen time after time after time. I don't know what it is. I don't think I have any answer out there. It just seems like every time I freaking leave the state of Georgia, good things happen. Should I be moving? You guys let me know in the comments. T-Shroom, do you want to go ahead and jump into some crypto discussion?
Yes.
A lot of this, we're going to pretty much, again, because I was working all weekend, I checked in from time to time on the charts and the news, but I've been out of it this weekend, right?
Whoa.
So we're going to explore with you guys and see what's going on here. What's going on?
There's a big coin on the bubble sheet.
There is a big coin. I thought you were looking. I know there's storming. It's already storming outside T-Shroom's house. So I didn't know you saw something in your actual place. Let's go to my screen here, T-Shroom. Let's look at what's happening. Nero. Anyone own this coin? Nero up 42% on the day. It's the big green bubble there in the middle. It looks like a Doge coin mixed with something else. I don't know anything about it. First, Nero on Ethereum. Okay, there you go. It's up 42%. Do your own research, people. Don't just buy in. I don't know if that rally is going to continue or if that was the top. Sui. We will talk about Sui today. You guys know that we've been calling for a little bit of a pullback on Sui, and we didn't necessarily go crazy up, but it definitely went higher than I thought it would. We'll check out the charts, let you know, did you miss the dip on Sui, or is there still one coming? Be prepared. WIF is up 9.4%. We have a couple of big losers here. Hex is down 8.3. Caspa over here down 4.3. Stacks is down. Popcat, HNT, LTC, Maker, Wormhole, Pith, they're all down along with a couple other coins. So kind of a mixed day to day. But let's jump into the Bitcoin charts, and then we'll take a look at a couple altcoins to see what's happening. Bouncing back, actually, back up over 63. As we started the show, we were dipping down below 63,000, kind of came back down towards 62. I think we got to 62.8. I guess we have to see the 1 hour chart. How low did we get here? About 62.7-ish is what we're looking at here. Could go lower. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But what you need to know here on the daily chart, again, we called that dip last week pretty darn perfectly, bouncing off of 60,100. The question, though, is what happens next? After we had this nice rounded bounce right here at 66,000, then we had a couple of days down at 60,000, bounce back to the upside. Is it time to make higher highs or higher lows? Well, it might be a little bit of a time of constriction in the price action here for Bitcoin. What do I mean? Well, we got a couple more hours before this daily chart does close, but you can see that's a pretty big wick up above us. A lot of times when you see a small candle body below with a big wick, you end up seeing some form of a pullback. Doesn't mean it needs to be major, just means some form of a pullback. You're also going to see as we move towards smaller time frames, let's go up here, like for example, to the 1 hour chart. You're going to see that we are setting some bearish divergences and definitely looking at corrections coming in on these smaller time frames. If we were to turn on the Lux Algo indicators, we're under a current sell signal, and while we are bouncing at the moment off of the smart trail on the 1 hour chart, we do have an order block and a take profit level, very interestingly, down here at 61,800. Coincidentally, if you come over and look at the liquidation charts, you're going to see a very similar level of liquidity here on the 3-day chart, where we have a bright yellow mark telling us there are millions of longs that will be exited, will be liquidated if price comes back down towards these levels. I'm not saying for certain that happens. Again, there's a lot of support at the moment with this bounce off of this smart trail right here. But with the hourly take profit, with that order block, and with the liquidations chart saying this, it does make you ask the question, can we / should we see the price of Bitcoin take a little bit of a cool off? In this case, let's put a line down here somewhere in the camp about 61. Let's go 61.6, I believe is where the liquidations were. I didn't want to draw that chart. Let's redo this. I want to grab this tool right here. There we go. 61.6, give or take. Let's just draw a line like right here, a potential target for price to move back down to. If price did come back down to this level, we hit that line, move back to the upside. I drew that terribly. Let's do it again. There we go. Let's actually just bounce off of it and then move to the upside. You'll see as we zoom out here, this would still be a little bit of a higher high that we've been setting since way back here on September 6th. But it also could be putting us in a spot where if the price action, let's change this one more time. Let's just go here and then get a small bounce at that level. We could be watching a little bit of a constriction in the price action where we are setting in a very short time frame lower highs, but at the same time higher lows with our price action. This is what we would call a symmetrical triangle pattern. Symmetrical triangle patterns usually happen as we're after big volatile movements, and that's what we've had here more recently, going from 52,000 up to 66,000, back down to 60,000, back up to 64,000. This volatility has been kind of nuts, but we can see it start to constrict a little bit with these lower highs and these higher lows. Well, another sign that we're looking at that potentially that is on the table is if we come out to the daily chart and take a look at our Bollinger Bands, which our Bollinger Bands had extended pretty nicely, very, very big volatility pretty much is what it's communicating, but it's working at the moment to kind of constrict back down into a zone that would bring a much larger breakout later down the line. You can see in reality, we really have not had much constriction recently on the daily chart here, except for back here early in June before we had a major move to the downside. But before that, historically, some of the biggest moves that happen in Bitcoin come after periods of time where this daily Bollinger Band gets nice and constricted, meaning those blue lines on the top and the bottom get very nice and close to each other. Well, recently we've been a little more volatile. We hadn't had time to slow down, compact, and then make a big move to the upside. It looks at the moment that is exactly what is in play right now. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if this formation does kind of end up taking some sort of shape. It's too early to say for certain, but I want you to be prepared that we could see the volatility start to diminish over the next couple of days before we finally get a much larger move to the upside. Keep an eye on those Bollinger Bands. Keep an eye on the Lux Algo indicator telling us how much of a squeeze we have. At the moment, we're at 39%. It would be a lot nicer to get closer towards 100. When we get that, a big move could be coming on the daily chart. Have not had that 100% squeeze in a very long time. That's what we're watching at the moment, but I do want to make sure before I let this go, I'm not discouraging anybody, making you think there's a major pullback. Again, even if we come back down here towards 61.6, that's still a higher low in this bull trend. It still is part of the method of getting the price of Bitcoin back up above 68,000, back up above 70, and heading towards new all-time highs in the next couple of weeks. October still looks good. Back
from what
above
I'm seeing
70
here on the
and
Bitcoin
heading chart. Thank you for that echo there, T-Shroom. Before we move on, T-Shroom, anything you want to add in there on the chart side? We're taking a look at Link, Tia, and Sui making some moves on the charts today. But any input from you?
Well, we're talking about 60,000 as the low, bros, and that's a luxury. That was not necessarily the case just a couple of weeks ago. Folks were thinking, hey, going back to 55,000, 58,000 certainly was in the cards, and it still is to some extent. But we're talking about the lows really being around 60,000, and that's bullish, right? Yeah. It's exciting, and at some point, you just got to think to yourself, if you've got money on the sidelines, how much longer do you keep that on the sidelines? I've still got a little bit, but for, I've got personal reasons, and so do you, to maybe have some cash on the sidelines. There's a hurricane coming, for example, right? There's all kinds of uncertainty. So there's cash on the sidelines, not just in my finances, but probably in some of yours. And that more than likely is translating as well to institutions who are waiting on the sidelines saying, hey, when is the best time to get in? And when that trigger's pulled, that's what's going to push us up above 69,000 and beyond, Tim. So it's exciting. 60,000 is the low here. I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it.
Let's keep looking on at some other coins here. Let's take a look at Chainlink. Again, doing pretty much exactly what we had called for here a couple of weeks ago, with a nice bounce off of this red line. That red line, when you zoom out, is the former resistance level of a falling wedge pattern. Very, very bullish pattern. Should see it send the price of Chainlink at least up here closer towards $15 in the next couple of weeks. But we told you, do not be surprised if we get a little pullback to that red line. Sure enough, that's what happened a couple of days ago, back on Friday. We then have been bouncing over the weekend. We have a white candle here on the daily chart, but similar to Bitcoin's, you have a very small candle body at the moment, very long wick above. So it's something to watch for the rest of the day. We could see some form of a small pullback similar to what we were seeing with Bitcoin. But let's turn on some indicators and take a look maybe at these lower time frames. Let's actually go all the way down towards the 1 hour chart, where right now we've been bouncing off of a strong order block set here just a little bit ago, yesterday, I believe, on Sunday the 6th. But what I'm going to keep an eye out for is back down towards $11 at the very least. This is where our 1 hour smart trail and our take profit on a recent sell signal on Chainlink has been. You're also going to see in this time frame, while it's not a strong divergence, we have a very slight bearish divergence in play here with kind of flat tops with our candle bodies in the 1 hour, but lower highs in all of our oscillators here, including the MACD, if I straighten that one out. This is a sign that the bulls are a little bit exhausted on the 1 hour chart. They probably want to pull back down a little bit lower. If you were to come out over here towards the 4 hour, we kind of find some confluence there around the $11 mark, where we have the 4 hour smart trail here as well. You see the bearish indicators on the MACD, on the Luxembourg oscillator, and RSI all saying, hey, this rally, long time frame, still looking healthy, still has a lot of room to the upside. But on the short term, a move back down towards $11, more than likely in the card. Would you look at that, T-Shroom? The daily chart smart trail is at $11 as well. So a lot of confluence right there that a lot of people probably are going to want to buy 11. That's where I'd recommend you guys going as well. Maybe try to beat the crowd, going like $11 and like 10 cents or something. But either way, that's what it looks like. We're coming back down to the downside. You can load up on a little more Chainlink. The train has not left the station for the bull market just yet. Let's keep moving on. Check out some others. Tia, when I checked earlier today, I chose this coin because Tia was having a fantastic day. It was one of the top movers in the top 100. It since has cooled off a little bit. Now it's only at 4%. I think earlier I saw it was like almost up 10% on the day. But let's take a look here at what Tia has been doing. Let's start off just turning off some of these indicators. We are absolutely right now, especially after this recent low that just came back down here on October 3rd, we are in inverse head and shoulders territory, ladies and gentlemen. What am I talking about? Well, we have a nice left shoulder over here. We got a nice head right here. And this recent dip is the right shoulder that completes this inverse head and shoulders pattern. Now, I say completes it because we have the two shoulders in the head. Technically, to be completed, we need to get back up above this line right here. Let's actually kind of straighten this out. This needs to come over to this mark right here. We need to get above this orange line here at the moment. If you're wondering what that orange line is, it is the neckline of this formation. You then take the depth of the head, move it over to a breakout spot above that orange line, and this would suggest that TIA's trajectory or its potential bullishness could make its way all the way up above $11. We have not seen that price since way back here in June of this year. It would be absolutely amazing to see it happen once again. But at the moment, what do we have going on here? We do actually see a lot of daily bullish signals here. T-Shroom at the moment. You can see here we've recently, it's not an official buy signal like we had back here on September 8th. You do see positive money flow and a bullish trajectory on our oscillator. You see the bullish MACD and a bullish RSI. So the daily chart absolutely telling us further move to the upside, more than likely coming. Keep your eye around that orange level where we are going to run into our daily smart trail. But if we break through that, there we have a nice move to the upside. We have an order block in that camp of $11.40. In a shorter time frame, let's see what our 1 hour is saying, maybe what the next 12 to 24 hours could look like. We hit our recent take profits on a buy signal. I bet you, yes, that's exactly what I thought. While we haven't officially hit a sell signal just yet, you can see on our money flow oscillator, this is part of the Lux Algo Premium Oscillator, you can see that there's excessive buyers in the space on the 1 hour chart. Well, excessive buyers being in is good while they last, but when they leave, more often not, you do see this oscillator fall off of a cliff, and you should see the price follow it down at the very least back to 531 here on the 1 hour chart where we do have a smart trail. But I'm going to imagine this bullish breaker block around 487 is going to be a mark to watch. And guess what? Right in that category, we have the 4 hour smart trail. I'll raise it up a little bit though. Let's talk about $5 here. $5 up where we have an order block, and the top of our blue smart trail is going to be a very interesting position to watch for a TIA pullback. If I were to pull back up, I think we skipped the 4 hour oscillators. The 4 hour oscillators, kind of a mixed bag right now. They were bullish here over the last couple of days, but you can see after hitting its 4 hour take profit, we are starting to see a little keel over. It looks like the MACD wants to cross bearish. Looks like the RSI wants to cool off a little bit as well. So let's watch that and see how that progresses. But for now, that 1 hour chart is suggesting a cool off at the very least down here to 530. But again, $5 could be back on the table. And based off that 4 hour chart and cooling oscillators, I'm going to say if you're patient for this next couple of days, we could see TIA cooling off back towards that $5 mark is where I am watching. Let's move on to the last one I have planned here today, and then we'll jump into some news, get some Q&A later on in the show. But let's talk about Sui. Oh my goodness, just refuses to quit, refuses to stop going to the upside. You can even see right here, after setting a strong order block just a couple of days ago on the 2nd, getting some really, really strong resistance. We broke through that today like crazy. We popped up. We're back above $2. We hit as high as $2.16. But you will see we've gotten back into the middle of our 4 hour red cloud. We've hit our take profit. Let's look at the oscillator. The oscillators are overextended once again. They are overbought. They look like the bulls are just really, really, really high, but it also means they could be about to keel over and come back to the downside. Let's go back out and look at our daily chart. The chart that we were looking at the other day that was telling us a cool off, at least back down here towards 140, was pretty essential. You can see after being 100% overbought, we left that category for a couple of days. Now we're back up to being 100% overbought. Our MACD giving us a little bit of a fake out, right? A bearish cross, the same kind of bearish cross we had back here on August 27th, we pulled back. But then we flipped it and we crossed back bullish. Can that last? I don't know. We're still very, very high. What I don't like if I'm trying to remain super bullish on Sui, look at this money flow. Look at this money flow. Look at the excessive buyers, that bright green area, and then look at the oscillators where we had already had one level of bearish divergence. This, ladies and gentlemen, this next peak is now double bearish divergence, a very, very strong reversal signal. That money flow is still flowing to the upside, but as I said, when you have this excessive buyers or sellers, it's strong while the trend is lasting, but when they leave, let's go out here and take a look real quick. You guys are going to see Back in here, excessive sellers, excessive sellers, excessive sellers. The excessive sellers leave. What does price do? It blasts to the upside. Right now, we have excessive buyers. When they leave, we should see the price of SUI come back down to reality. We talked about a potential $1 mark for SUI. That's looking less likely. I'm not saying it's off the table, but I still believe a price action back down here below 150. At this place, we have the higher end still at 143, lower end here at 135. Should be on the table, but let's just double check this. Let's take a look at our liquidity and see if there's anything popping up on the charts that traders are watching. Nice level of liquidations down at 168. Let's go out a little bit further here. Let's go towards like 2 weeks and see if we find anything else interesting. That 168 seems to be popping up. It looks like what's happened, I could be wrong, but we used to have a lot more liquidity below us. Let's go to the 1 month real quickly. We used to have a lot more liquidity down below us. There you go. There's our dollar liquidity, but not a lot between that $1 mark. And we'll go right here about 158. There's some at 150, but based off of liquidations, if I come back over here to the chart, yeah, we have our smart trail right here, and we have a very strong breaker block in play. There's a chance we need to move this zone up here closer towards 160 to 150. That's where we see a lot of liquidations that could be a play. If you're looking for your next SUI buy, instead of getting these lower picks, which we really, really wanted, you might have to settle for 160 back on the table. That being said, again, the bearish divergences, the bearish reversals keep piling up. I know a lot of people are going to be tempted right now. I want to warn some people on things. A lot of people are going to be tempted right now to say, SUI just won't stop going to the upside. I have to get in now. Well, when it's alt season, more likely in December, you'd be absolutely correct. You're going to see things go parabolic to the upside. You got to dump the fact that you missed out. You got to get in. It's not alt season at the moment. This is pumping on some news. SUI's had some phenomenal news recently, phenomenal relationships, phenomenal developments. It's all good stuff. But everything that goes up during a season like that also gets corrected and sets what we would call a higher low in a bull trend. Well, we haven't seen a good higher low here recently, which is why I still believe one is on the table. Is it only around 160? Does it fall all the way to $1? The good news is, in both those scenarios, we are still extremely bullish, and SUI holders will make a lot of money. But I urge you, with any asset, not just SUI, resist the urge to jump in on bullish trends based off of positive information recently, because markets are volatile. It's not yet time for markets to go parabolic and not have any pullback really whatsoever. Pullbacks should still be expected. I urge you, resist the temptation to FOMO in. You're going to get a better price in the next couple of weeks. T-Shroom, that is all the TA that I have for you right now. We'll do some more later on the show when we get some Q&A. But let's transition into our news, because we got some phenomenal stories we got to talk about. First of all, BlackRock making some very high accusations, and I say accusations is probably the wrong word, claims about how amazing Bitcoin has performed in its existence. Why don't you take us into that story and tell us what we need to know?
Absolutely, Tim. Well, for those of you who are newer to investing, newer to crypto, BlackRock is an issuer of a Bitcoin ETF of the spot variety. Bitcoin ETFs for futures have been around for quite some time, multiple cycles. However, Bitcoin spot ETFs, the kind that banks can own, the kind that are much more attractive to put into 401k, those came around in January of this year. So they're very big, they're very bullish, and it's BlackRock that brought them to you all, along with some other issuers. This is what they had to say recently about blockchain and Bitcoin technology.
Assets is that in some ways this is one of the fastest growing technologies we've seen in the last few years. On the right-hand side of the chart, you can see our adoption curve. This is just looking at how quickly certain assets are adopted by a society. And you can see that blockchain and digital assets are being adopted faster than major revolutions before it, whether that's the internet or whether that's cell phones. And there's a couple of reasons for this. The first reason is just we're living in a more digital economy than ever before. If we're consuming things online, streaming videos, playing video games, buying digital content, it makes sense to have digitally native assets to conduct those transactions.
And so they go on into a lot more detail there, but the claim from BlackRock, right? This isn't a claim from your grandma who's all into conspiracy theories, right? This is from BlackRock. coming out and saying that crypto is growing faster, being adopted faster than the internet, mobile phones. It feels like not too long ago it was just nerds in their basement that was trading Bitcoin and sending it back and forth and getting into mining. Now it's almost everybody, Tim, or at least it feels that way. Tim, what are your thoughts here on BlackRock using such big words, comparing it to the internet, comparing Bitcoin and crypto to mobile phone adoption? Everybody's got a phone in their hand nowadays. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge because anyone who has lived during the time periods where those things were invented, we're talking about phones, we're talking about the internet. And again, while I guess I was alive when the invention of cell phones came. I think the phones predate me quite a while. I think, T-Sherm, you could fact check me on that one.
About the same time.
And then, but yeah, I definitely was around. I definitely remember the internet becoming a much larger thing. That being said, there were people at the time who were absolute naysayers. There were people at the time who said, this is just a fad. People are going to go right back to writing letters and just waiting for the newspaper to come out to collect their news. And of course they were wrong. And there's today millions of people who had the opportunity to invest in both cell phones and in the internet and decided not to, who are kicking their own butts because of it. When they see this, though, and they're saying not only is this revolutionary in the sense of how money is distributed, and that's a big issue for people worldwide, they're seeing people pick it up a whole lot faster. T-Shroom, it's not necessarily one group of people. You mentioned it. Early days of Bitcoin was nothing but those computer nerds, those hackers who want to hide their money from the government. No, we're watching Gen Z pick it up because it's new, it's innovative. Yeah. Obviously, Gen Zers are going to take everything new. You see millennials, I guess, would be before that one. Millennials like you and me, T-Shroom, who are sick and tired of our money being depreciated. We work really, really hard for it each and every day, and we know that something's got to give at some point. So we look at it as our investing future. You see people in Gen X, and then so on and so forth, baby boomers, who are realizing, man, I've got to move my wealth into something that's actually going to make it long term. This is not something that one small group of people is going after. It's several different groups for several different reasons. And I think that's something that people need to be aware of right now. Like you said, T-Shroom, this isn't your grandma coming and telling you this. Well, guess what? You guys need to go tell your grandmas about Bitcoin so that she can save herself a little bit of dough, hopefully to pass on to you maybe later on in life. But go do it right now. They need to protect their wealth. People need to protect their wealth. We're watching the adoption go historical numbers. That means this rally is going to be very ferocious, very fast. But if you miss out on these early days, you're missing out on the opportunity and investment of a lifetime. Those days are limited. I love this. Super bullish for all of us who are early adopters. Continue to hodl on. Your patience will be rewarded handsomely.
Well, speaking of handsome, Tim, we've got our next story here. Robinhood Chief Legal Officer Dan Gallagher, a handsome man, is leading. He's the leading contender for the SEC chair if Donald Trump, maybe you've heard of him, wins the election. Tim, this is pretty interesting. This is definitely piquing my interest in terms of maybe buying Robinhood stock. Although you would have to assume that Dan Gallagher would not act in the interest solely of Robinhood finances, the stock. You would imagine that he's going to move in some ways that may free up some regulatory cloudiness that exists for crypto and for the financial industry as it relates to crypto. To me, this is very bullish because Robinhood has done pretty well when it comes to crypto. Of course, there's kind of a nasty taste in folks' mouth when it comes to GameStop and how Citadel and Robinhood kind of treated their users with that episode. But overall, I'd have to give Robinhood probably like a B plus to A minus when it comes to crypto, right? They haven't had, the big one is that they haven't had any hacks, right? They haven't had any kind of mishaps. They've been able to onboard a lot of folks into Bitcoin and Ethereum and some other coins, but they've also been a guiding light in terms, for me at least, in terms of what coins have passed that regulatory threshold. You can kind of assume when you go on Robinhood that all of those coins are not securities. JP Morgan and Citadel have too much exposure to Robinhood. If the SEC were to bring it into the principal's office, so to speak, bring it into court, those two institutions would be too exposed. So overall here, I think that this is pretty bullish. I like this pick. There's definitely better picks, Tim. Who would you like to see in the SEC chair over this gentleman here, Dan Gallagher, Chief Legal Officer over at Robinhood?
I'm not even gonna lie to you. If you're gonna really ask me what I want nobody to be the chair
there you go.
of the SEC. I would love for the SEC to be disbanded and some of their duties and responsibilities to be given to other. Well, I mean, and you get into this whole issue with what Elon Musk is going to be doing, and it sounds like it's a sure thing. Like Donald Trump on the campaign trail is actively telling people excitedly about his plans to use Elon Musk for his what's the word for it? His government efficiency.
The Department of Government.
That's right, because it's
efficiency.
DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah. So he's campaigning with this idea. Guess what? One of the places you could save a lot of money is stop having 147 different, I don't know how many there actually are, so fact check me on that one, but a bunch of different regulatory agencies that really seem to regulate very similar things. Why don't we just have one? And why don't we have one that really is not, it doesn't allow that one entity to have a lot of power. It's heavily overseen by Congress that is constantly rotating people in and out. So we make sure we don't have another situation like we have right now with Gary Gensler. That being said, if the SEC stays in power, I would love to know more about this Gallagher guy. I don't know much about him other than, of course, his role working for Robinhood. And I kind of go back and forth in my brain, T-Shroom, of thinking, is it good? Is it bad? The bad side would say Robinhood historically hasn't necessarily been a friend to crypto. It hasn't been the main enemy, but the first mention that the SEC is coming after cryptocurrency and Robinhood just dumps pretty much all of their altcoins that were even considered potentially to be a security, right? They just keep the big ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and a couple others they have that weren't threats. But they kind of gave up that fight easily, which I'm not upset with them about because they're not a crypto company. That being said, we have heard things from the Robinhood CEO in the last year seem to be like they've really gone pro-crypto. He's really excited about the future. They're going to kind of join the fight. And obviously, anyone who's been their chief legal counsel is very aware of the controversies that it is to work with the SEC and be able to allow the everyday person to invest and to trade their hard-earned money with common sense, but not be so restricted in doing so. So I lean towards bullish, T-Shroom. I lean towards logic would say, based off his experience and who he's worked with, that would be bullish, but we just don't know. And you never know with these types of things. So I'd love to learn more about him. It would be surprising to me. First of all, I guess with this back up here, it's just a rumor that he's going to be made, right? So we've seen this before. We've seen, rumors are saying they're going to hire this person or do this person. Let's see if the rumors are even true. Yep. Let's look more into who this person is in general, about their personal beliefs on all the issues that matter to us. But at this point, if you ask me, choose a side, is this bullish or bearish? I think I'm dipping my toes into the bullish side, but there's a lot of information still needs to be known.
Yep. And we'll take another minute here because I've kind of had a thought here live is that, what is crypto in the phase right now of it's join them, right? We've had the, ignore them, fight them, and join them. And who joined who, right? It's Wall Street, traditional finance, joining crypto, right? New finance. Finance, though, crypto still misunderstood by a lot, and for good reason. It's this blockchain technology that kind of came out of left field from the encryption community. But what are we seeing now? We're seeing these two incompatible worlds trying to be compatible, traditional finance and decentralized finance. And who's at the apex of that? I would make the argument it's Robinhood, right? Robinhood is 1 foot in tradition and 1 foot out, right? Kind of giving the middle kind of seen as giving the middle finger to tradition with their very name. Robinhood gets taking from the rich, giving to the poor. Now, of course, there's been a lot of wealthy people that have gotten even more wealthy off of Robinhood's existence, but for the most part, it allowed folks on the ground, retail, like you and me, be able to buy stocks without commission. That's the main claim to fame that Robinhood has. So they have done a lot for the little guy, and I think that now, if Dan Gallagher is able to get in that SEC chair, I think they could take the ball all the way to the end zone and make the best financial situation possible. Now, I say it's really going to be Dan. He's not going to be acting on part of Robinhood, but he will kind of be coming in with that philosophy of having 1 foot in tradition, finance, and 1 foot into the future of what's possible. That, based on Robinhood's actions as a whole on net, right? They've had some blemishes, but as a whole on net, they have helped the little guy. And, rich people have gotten richer at the same time. But That's kind of my whole take on it. So moving along here, let's go ahead and get to the next story. I'd say that one overall pretty bullish, but it is a big what if, Tim. It's a big what if. We need to see A, Trump win if he's going to win, and B, we need to see that decision actually be made from the Trump administration officially. National Bank of Bahrain launches the first Bitcoin investment product. It looks bullish. It sounds bullish. Let us know in the chat. What does this mean? What does this mean? Does this mean that the Central Bank of Bahrain is buying Bitcoin into its treasury? Does it mean that it's making Bitcoin available for potential clients of the bank? Would that include retail? Is that other institutions? Again, it sounds bullish. It probably is bullish, but what does it mean? We don't know. All we have is this headline. It's kind of a little bit of a head scratcher. Tim, what do you think here?
My best guess is it's some form of what the equivalency of an ETF would be. They're not letting the people necessarily go right out and buy the asset, but they're giving you some way to get exposure to the price action. So in the same way with an ETF, which we talked about a lot here on the channel, you don't actually own Bitcoin when you buy the ETF, but you own the ETF, the exchange traded fund, which effectively will go up and down in price in cahoots with the price of Bitcoin. You never have to actually own the Bitcoin. You don't have to custody it yourself or do anything else, which in my opinion is kind of stupid, but it allows you to get exposure. I imagine it's something, if it's not an ETF, something the equivalence of an ETF that just gives people wealth exposure to Bitcoin.
Yep. Tim, did you know that you're extremely naive? At least according to Michael Hillary, you and I are both naive. He said, y'all are so naive. Thinking all these ideal things are actually true as it relates to the markets. Robinhood ain't doing nothing for free and ain't doing nobody thinking about for the poor or the underclass. So that's the hot take there from Michael Hillary. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Big takeaway from there is ain't.
Ain't.
No, listen, Michael is not wrong. Like, Robinhood is not going to do anything out of the kindness of their hearts. They're a business. They're a for-profit business. They are not apologetic about it. They're going to make a lot of money. That ultimately is part of the reason why years ago they got that really bad name when they shut down their exchange, disallowing people to take profits on GameStop and well, I think there's a couple other things involved there. Ultimately, yeah, that is why we preach so heavily to you guys to get self-custody set up, to get yourself a cold wallet, to find a way to hold this crypto yourself where you don't have to worry about these centralized exchanges. And I'm not just talking about Robinhood. That would include the Coinbases and the Binances and the Krakens. And to be fair with you, even the ones that we recommend here on the channel, Blofin and CoinW, which are phenomenal trading accounts, you still do not want to be caught with a massive amount of your portfolio in a centralized exchange and something goes wrong with that exchanges. Just go ask somebody who had an account with FTX about that. Go ask somebody who had an account with Celsius. Go ask somebody who's been through it for years and years and years. And if there's one thing that any person who's been investing in crypto for more than 5 years will tell you, they'll say, hey, if you can hold and ride out the volatility, you'll make a lot of money. But number two to that, if you want to do it, you got to have some form of cold wallet, because exchanges, they come, they go. Some of them will make it long term, but it's impossible to know which ones exactly will do that. You got to make sure you custody your own cryptocurrency with a cold wallet. Doug says MetaMask. Be careful with MetaMask. We have a lot of friends who use MetaMask heavily. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. While I have a MetaMask account, I feel like most people have been in crypto space for a long time, have a MetaMask account, I never use it. And I never click on links that are attached to anything in my MetaMask account. Why? Because that is the age-old story in the world of crypto. I bet you in chat right now, we probably have at least 10 people who have been caught up in some form of a scam. They've clicked on a link thinking they were connecting to some form of a group and ended up getting their entire MetaMask account drained. Even MetaMask, even though some people are going to say it's better than a centralized exchange, you got to be careful. It's still better to have money in a cold wallet instead. I think there's a link still in the description down below. If you guys don't have one, go check out Arculus. They are the best. They are the ones I use, the ones T-Shroom uses. They're the best out there. Go secure your own cryptocurrency. Yep. T-Shroom, do we have any more stories, or are we transitioning here?
Yeah, we do. We have just kind of our Polymarket corner. Polymarket, when people put money where their mouth is, right, it's becoming truth. It's becoming a little bit more in this age of misinformation and fake news and all this. We never know what's real. Well, if people are putting their money where their mouth is, more than likely it's something you can trust a little more than just mainstream media. 53.5% likelihood of a Trump win is what the betting markets are predicting right now, to Harris's 45.7. This is one of the wider spreads that I've seen in a while. We can track this on this just chart here. You can see it. They're starting to break away. Now, back here in early September, there was a similar spread. So this could come back and kind of collapse back into being neck and neck as it has been for a while. But if you look at the states here, Tim, Pennsylvania, finally, Trump is pulling ahead there, 55%. Still losing in Nevada, Michigan, and Wisconsin, but also winning there in Georgia and Arizona. These are the swing states, the states that are undecided in the United States. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, how can you be so optimistic about Trump winning? Look, we only really cover politics to the extent that it's going to affect risk markets like the stock market and crypto. But Tim, Trump pulling ahead here, any thoughts on that? I mean, generally it's bullish for Bitcoin, but what do you think?
I'm going to have the same kind of feeling I had a couple of weeks ago when it looked like Kamala was pulling ahead. I'm not going to get too high or too low on these numbers until we get closer to the election season. And we're less than 1 month away, but we equivalently still have 4 weeks until the election. As you guys can see, these polls and these things are extremely short-sighted. I mean, we have the attempted assassination, and it looks like there's a shoo-in. There's no way Donald Trump doesn't win the election. Then we have a changing of the guard, the Democratic Party, and all of a sudden it starts to get a little tighter. And then all of a sudden, Kamala doesn't do as bad as people thought she would in a debate. All of a sudden, she takes a massive lead. Back and forth and back and forth. This most recent one, I think a lot has to do with responses, T-Shroom, to what's happening in North Carolina and Tennessee right now. I'm going to keep my thoughts on that minimal just because we're here on YouTube to talk about cryptocurrency. But I think that's anyone who knows what's happening right now with the storms and what Trump's been doing, what Kamala's been doing. I think you understand, no matter who you're voting for, you understand why Trump is pulling ahead right now. Guess what, T-Shroom? We're about to have another storm hit here within the next day or two. Category 5 storm at the moment. Milton is heading towards Tampa. Just so you guys know, I was down helping my family in North Florida, who I think are going to they're going to miss this one. They're not going to get hit by it whatsoever. But I have other family members who are down there in Tampa. We have lots of friends on there. T-Shroom, you're in the trail for this one. I don't think it's going to be a Cat 5, or it might not even be a Cat 1 by the time it hits you, but you're definitely in the path at the moment of this hurricane.
Yeah, I'm over on the Space Coast, and bros, I've been updating the Discord, talked about it a little bit this morning on the Monday morning show at 9 a.m. However, I just don't really know exactly what I'm gonna have to end up doing here. I may not be able to be on the show as much as I'd like to this week, or I may be on every single day. I don't know quite yet. I rode around on my bike this morning, Tim. I went to a couple coffee shops. I went to an auto shop. Even went to a couple of like little insurance little offices and asked, hey, look, I just moved in here. What do you guys think? Do you think it's going to flood? Do you think, we should evacuate? And there was a consensus that probably based on where my location is, I don't need to evacuate, and it's not going to flood. But, we're still taking precautions and things could change, right? This is a historic, it's because it's the 4th strongest hurricane in Atlantic history.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess that includes Katrina as well, which was extremely devastating to the New Orleans community. I don't know. Well, so anyway, expect some disruptions this week.
The reason why this one's so catastrophic, you go to my screen here. This is what we're looking at right now. We're changing from crypto to storm here. If you guys are in these areas, hopefully you've already thought about what you want to do. But I pray you're going to be safe. I pray you have a plan in place. If you don't have a plan in place, please go get one. If you need to go find a stronger building, if you need to drive north, do it. Right now, at the time we're shooting this, it's a Category 5 hurricane. Now it's expected to cool off. It's gonna take. What is this territory right down here, T-Shirt? Do you know what that is? You're muted, so I can't hear you.
Sorry, that is the Yucatan Peninsula of the great country of Mexico.
This is part of Mexico. Okay,
it is.
It's gonna take out some of this and it's gonna slow it down. It should be a 3 by the time it makes landfall. Here's why this is still so problematic, though. I grew up in Brandon, Florida. I was born in Virginia, grew up in Brandon, Florida. So we had our fair share of hurricanes. I was right in the same category. I vividly remember when Katrina hit Louisiana, when it hit New Orleans and just did all of its havoc. Part of the problem was where New Orleans is compared to sea level, the infrastructure they had to prevent mass flooding into the city. And there was estimates that said if that storm Katrina had hit Tampa, it would have been 5 times worse than what happened in New Orleans. Now, I know that Tampa in the state of Florida has done some things to try to fix this, but they're not ready. I mean, I was watching something earlier talking about this could be absolutely one of the worst storms we've ever seen. Why? Not because it's going to be a Category 5 by the time it hits land, but it's because it's hitting an extremely vulnerable yet important part of the country, Tampa, Florida. Flooding is going to be absolutely bonkers. It's just where we are in sea level in that area. It's going to be bad. I really do hope and pray that people are getting out. If you guys are anywhere close to the Gulf of Mexico, in that region where you see purple counties, find some higher ground, find stronger buildings. Don't play around with this stuff. I was fortunate enough growing up to never be on the extreme bad end of a hurricane, but I've also had friends, even in this most recently, who had grown up in Florida, never had a hurricane destroy anything in their livelihoods. You get this kind of like numbing effect, like, oh, it's just a hurricane, not a big deal. And this last one, which didn't even hit Tampa directly, wiped out, I know personally, multiple people's whose homes, vehicles, livelihoods were destroyed completely. And now, with only a 2-week time span to regroup and rethink and re-prepare, they're about to get hit by one even stronger coming directly at them. This is not something that people should be playing with, to joking. I'm not a worry person. I'm not a fear-based person. I believe very heavily that my days were numbered before I was even born. I don't know those numbers, but God does. And so I don't live a life of fear. I don't live a life of anxiety, and I don't recommend anyone else does the same. But there's a thing called wisdom. There's this thing called common sense that I do believe is also a gift from God that allows us to take ourselves out of situations where anxiety and fear can rage rampant. So right now, if you're in this area, I am not telling you guys to be afraid. I am not telling you guys to run for the hills and be scared. I'm telling you to come up with a plan. Make sure it's a good plan. Get there. Protect yourself and your families. If your house leaves, it's going to be devastating. I'm not going to try to undermine it. But you know what's most important is you, your family, your lives. We can always rebuild. We like to complain all the time about where we are in the United States right now, and this election coming up is very, very important. But let's not joke around or act like America is about to fall into complete demise. We are still the greatest nation here in the world. This is still the land that's easiest to rebuild when you've lost everything. You can rebuild a house. You can rebuy a car. You can buy more crypto. But if you lose family because of a foolish decision to stick around and wait it through, that's something that's going to stick with you the rest of your life. Don't make that mistake. Get out. Be safe. We love you guys. Stay safe out there. And, I don't have anything to add there. Just be safe.
Yeah, I'd say be safe as well. I'd say be safe. And if you don't see me leaving and not evacuating, I'm not in that zone. In fact, I'm just barely. I'll go back to Tim's.
You're muted. I think you're pre-muted whenever you go to my screen.
Yeah, whenever. So you see that one that's on the east side of Florida. I'm kind of close to that, right? I'm just in that zone that's just barely green. And like I said, I went around and drove around and talked to business owners and asked, what are the chances of it getting really bad? Should we evacuate? And they all kind of said, it could get dicey, but it's. I wouldn't. They said evacuating might be a bit extreme. They don't think that we're in an area that's going to be flooded. So. I think that is even risky, right? I want to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. Yeah. I don't know exactly what the right thing is yet, and that's why I'm telling you all. I might not be on the stream some days this week, but right as of now, the plan is to stay. If I was in the purple zone, I would already have been gone, right? I would have already probably been in Atlanta, playing ping pong with Tim in his garage, right? That's what the reality is. If you're in the pink zone, don't stay there, please.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things. And unless you have a good plan, that's what I don't know everyone's circumstances. Some people have great houses, great situations to stay. Yeah, and again, that's because they planned for it. They have that plan. But if you're in a trailer anywhere in any of those purple counties, Go get out. Go find a building. I'm sure every single one of these counties has strong buildings that allow you to go. Not everyone should be leaving the state. That causes backup on interstates. That causes accidents. That causes chaos. That causes a bunch of stuff. Some people need to stay put, and some people need to leave. Know who you are and act accordingly.
Yep.
T-Shroom, let's go ahead and adjust out of here. Let's change the mood here. Yep. Kind of more heavy, more serious. Let's transition into our factoid of the day and then enter Q&A as we wrap out the show.
That's right. Yeah, we've got a super chat as well that is basically
yes.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. I think we can get to that on the other side of the factoid though.
Yeah.
So the factoid of the day is brought to you all by the video that was posted on Saturday. This is actually a really cool video that Crux and I did. This is the top 5 Uptober coins. I'm going to go ahead and tell you all what the coins were. They were Tau, AVAX, Sui, PEEF, and Ondo. But if you want to know why we picked those coins, you've got to go watch this video right here that Crux and I did. We had a ton of fun, and yes, that is
that a zebra in the background?
That is exactly, Tim. It is really a zebra head in the background.
Wow.
Crux. We talk about it at length. So that's very cool. But Tim, let's go ahead and jump on into the factoid of the day, brought to you all by this YouTube channel. Go check out the rest of our videos and make sure that you hit subscribe so you can get more videos just like this. Tim, which country was the first to use paper currency? A, these United States, B, China, C, Italy, or D, Egypt? What is the correct answer, Tim?
I think it's B or D.
No,
I think it's it's not the United States. Paper was around much before. I think it's B or D. I'm going to say B though. Most everything that we use seems to have started in China. Okay. So I'm going to stick with that and go with B, China.
He's going with B. Let us know in the chat. What do you think? A, B, C, or D? Tim's going with B, but is he right?
It's like that says B a lot.
He is.
All right, there we go.
Tim, according to the historical records, China was the first country to use paper currency, with the earliest known paper banknotes appearing during the Tang dynasty in the 7th century AD. Tim, the tangy truth is that you're a smart guy. How does it feel to be so smart?
Listen, it's a heavy burden. I'm just kidding. No, I feel like when in doubt, if you get asked where was something invented, of everything that question gets asked about, you're probably going to find 85 to 90% of the answers are going to be China. China has been, you say what you will about their country currently and about their history in human rights, long conversation. They've definitely helped the way our world works, our cultures beyond just the Eastern cultures develop with their invention. So kind of an easy answer there, I would say.
Gunpowder, paper currency.
Yeah.
It's all.
Spoons.
Sports?
Sporks. No, forks.
They invented forks?
I don't know who came with a spork. Sporks are probably an American thing. That sounds like the type of thing an American would come up with. But forks and spoons, despite that they don't use them,
that's right.
China invented them. So,
bros, we are now in the question and answer section of the show. We go live every single day at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're just finding us for the first time, welcome. Would encourage you to go ahead and smash that subscribe button. This is the time where you can ask us anything, any question at all. It could be about our favorite cereal, or more than likely you're interested in technical analysis on a specific altcoin. Tim, we did have a super chat here from Roosevelt Taylor donating $5, said, congrats T-Shroom. Love the show. Any thoughts on Link getting to 100 by end of year? So a little TA on Link, Tim. Could we get up to 100? Let's go to your screen and check it out.
Well, we don't need to go to the screen. We did TA on this one earlier. $100 is too high, too fast for Chainlink, right? I think that Chainlink could be in the $20 to $50 range. I know it's a wide range, but it really depends on when true alt season starts. Does it start by the end of November? And can we get higher towards $50? I think so. But if it waits until mid to late December, I'd be surprised if it's much above the $20 mark, closer maybe towards $30 or so. $100, no. I think that we could be reaching $100 towards the middle or end of quarter one. Then the question becomes, do we get the normal 4-year cycle? Do we extend past a potential short-term top in April or so and go into the fall of 2024? In which case, I think we're looking, and I'm kind of giving away some answers I'm going to be giving you guys the next couple of weeks about Chainlink's price prediction. But I think that we could be in the category by next year this time. South end 200, north end 300 to 400 range. Then if you have an extended cycle into the end of 2026, like I've talked about in both my Bitcoin and Ethereum price prediction videos, now we're starting to talk about that $700 mark that we talked about before. Yes, I've kind of backed off on just how crazy high Chainlink could go. Some of that is because Solana has really stolen the spotlight of me thinking at one point Chainlink would be coin number 3. I think it'd be very hard to unseat Solana at number 3 in this bull market, but I think the number 4 or number 5 spot for Chainlink, still well within the cards, should put us this time next year in the category of $300 to $400. End of year, though, let's talk about 20 to 50. 50 on the high end, 20 on the low end. That's my prediction for Chainlink end of 2024.
And I think 100 by year end for Chainlink, easy. Just kidding. Maybe. We'll see. But that's going to be quite a jump there. Servando Estrada said, I want a hat, which brings us to how you can get a hat.
Yeah.
Tim, you've got to go over and sign up for the BroLux memberships down in the description of the very video you're watching. See, there's the video, BroLux description, BroLux membership link right here. That is going to take you to the tiers, and it's clearly stated which tier you will be able to get a free hat on. Set it up, and we will send you your free Investing Bros hat that looks a little bit like this. Free? Yes, that's right. These hats are free, but you do have to sign up for the BroLux membership. And then Paul Hanzik said, can you look at MSTR? That is MicroStrategy. So MSTR will be a good one to go ahead and check out, Tim. MSTR is the ticker. MicroStrategies is the company. Michael Saylor is not the CEO anymore, but I think he's a chairman of the board.
He's important.
Let's go check it out.
He's very important. Yeah, we got a zone right here. It's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on for resistance. The good news is that we had a nice little zone down here. That was a very nice level of support as well. So we've been in a sideways trading channel really here on MicroStrategy ever since we entered into it back in March of 2024, just like everything else. But unlike Bitcoin, which has kind of gone in a downward trajectory channel, this is nice and sideways. We're wrestling at the moment with resistance at the moment. Now, mind you, I have not done MicroStrategy technical analysis anytime recently, so I'm going to walk through this and kind of explain what I am seeing. Let's start off with the daily chart, where we are with oscillators. A lot of growth happening, but we are very, very high on these oscillators. When I take a look at the daily chart, I see we also have a bearish reversal indicator, bearish momentum, and that money flow, while it's not technically negative just yet, it's nice and rounded and looks like it wants to curve over the downside. That would be a sell signal on MicroStrategy on the daily chart. Where I would take that down to is pretty much where we just put in a smart trail. It's going to be down here in the range of 150, 148 should be a target to keep an eye on. Let's just draw something right in here. A nice little line for a nice pullback there. Let's take a look out to the upper side, the higher side, the weekly chart, where we recently had bounced off weekly smart trails back here a couple of weeks ago in the beginning of September. We're close to our take profit zones, but if we can start to make that move, what you're watching is you take the length, the opening of this channel, and you move it over to the breakout spot, which I lost it there. Got a little skip in I wonder if my mouse is about to die. I'll charge it here in a little bit. This should send the MicroStrategy price in the next couple of months up above 350. What is the history of MicroStrategy? This is the highest it's ever been. We're not. That would set us 2 new all-time highs. The all-time high is technically from back here in March. No, MicroStrategy. No, back in September, March, February area of 2000. That's why I was looking at this so weirdly. I'm on the weekly chart. I was like, why does it take me so long to find the price? MicroStrategy was worth $330 per share if you go back to like March of 2000. This would be a very much a recent all-time high if we get there. But actually, that's a new all-time high if we hit 350. With their exposure to Bitcoin, though, easily doable. Here's what I'll say. While I'm looking at this daily chart being overextended, and I'm saying that this pullback to 150 is in the cards, I want to remind people of something I said last week as well. During bull trends, you're going to get a lot. I want to go to the oscillator. When you go to the bull trend, you're going to get a lot of reversal indicators that end up being false signals. What that means and what that's symbolizing is just how strong the bulls are. That these sell signals will always give you at least sideways movements where you see consolidation. But if you stop seeing larger pullbacks after these sell signals, that's just telling you how strong the bulls are and why you should be so bullish on it long term. So if we break out above this blue line and close a daily candle above it, open and close a daily candle above this line, I'm going to go ahead and tell you just go ahead and buy, because that is a sign of how strong the bulls are. That being said, what I'm seeing here on the daily chart, I really do think it'd be healthy for MicroStrategy to get a pullback back down here towards this mid-level around 148, 150 is my thoughts about a good entry if you're looking to enter into a MicroStrategy long.
I love it. I love it. Well, Tim, it is 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
It is.
That is usually when we conclude the stream. It's been a pleasure. This has been a great stream.
Dips for Buying says, Tim looks like he needs a nap after the show. Fair play for powering through the travel. Yeah, 2 whole days of chainsawing and moving stuff and then waking up this morning at 7 a.m. to drive back to get here for the show. I definitely am going to take you up on that offer, Dips for Buying. Good news is, if you have more questions and you are part of our VIP trading group, T-Shroom is going live here as soon as we end. I will still be going live. I don't know what my energy is going to look like, but I'll be going live with Q&A at 7 p.m. tonight. And then at 8 p.m., we will have our X Spaces. I might be asleep through it, but I'll be there. You should be as well. See you guys later on. Love you. Adios.